What literally game-changing feature did GameMaker just implement? What is a parametric equalizer? What is this weird overlay? Why don't banana sweets and milkshakes taste anything like bananas? All these questions and more answered in today's GameMaker release roundup. First of all, in version 2023.6 we have a new audio effect called parametric EQ. So normally in audio software a parametric EQ or equalizer is represented by something that looks a little bit like this diagram. But basically it means an equalizer built on parameters, parametric. It allows you to control how much certain audio frequencies are boosted or dampened with particular slopes and curves. I'm too much of an audio noob to really know how to use this very well, but it does give you a ton of very precise control over how your audio sounds if you do know what you're doing. Now sadly, GameMaker doesn't have a visual editor for this, and you do have to code the frequency boost yourself by changing the struct parameters. Still, it is nice to be seeing so much work go into deep control of audio at runtime in GameMaker, which I know many people have been wanting for many years. There's a new rather cool debug overlay. The old debug overlay just showed a kind of ugly performance bar at the top of your game that would be kinda handy for seeing performance spikes, but a little hard to really interpret in much detail. Now we have a whole fancy new overlay, enabled as before by using show debug overlay true. By default this shows you an FPS window that does kinda get in the way a bit more, but it shows you a lot more detailed info, the kind you would normally need to run in debug mode to get. Also, you can click here for a little menu to toggle this and two other displays. We've got a console log that is basically the GameMaker output window, maybe handy if it's hard to see your game in that window at the same time, and also an audio display. What's neat about this is you can see all the sounds that are loaded and playing in memory, regardless of if your frail human ears are able to detect them. We can see their gain, their track position in a somewhat hard to interpret hex format but still useful, and we can see the sound is in white if it is actually playing. I also just really appreciate how clean this interface all is. Perhaps that's just me being used to how things used to look. SDF fonts were implemented back in 2023.1, but finally SDF can be enabled for fonts added in the IDE and not just for fonts created at runtime, making this feature a lot more welcoming to work with. This lets you keep fonts looking smooth as they are upscaled without just having to bring in a much bigger font size, consuming a lot of precious texture page space. There is a new project loading and saving tool which does various version checks on a project. Along with fixing some backwards compatibility, this also promises to introduce a kind of forwards compatibility by teaching GameMaker to ignore project contents, assets, and other features it does not recognize. Some new things have been added to GML here and there, including notably functions that create and extract zip files, very cool, and are both metaphorical and literal game changer in the function game_change. You can use this to load a separate GameMaker game from your included files. You just include the game's data.win and other included files in a subfolder of your included files without the executable and call this function. This means you can create a launcher or auto patcher for your game, a way to combine an episodic series of games, or a collab or collection of games, a launcher for dev tools and level editors. There are a ton of uses for this. This relies on the VM runner at the moment and will not work with YYC compiled projects, which I know will be a bummer for some of you, but otherwise this really, literally is a game changer. I know a lot of projects personally that have wanted this kind of functionality for a while, and I'm looking forward to seeing what can be done with it. Finally, why don't the banana milkshakes you get at McDonald's and banana flavored sweets taste anything like bananas you buy from shops? Well, it turns out they used to. The banana variety called the Gross Miguel or Big Mike that contained a lot of something called isoamyl acetate, giving it most of its distinct flavor, sadly proved vulnerable to a fungus that caused Panama disease, wiping out most plantations. These bananas still exist and can be grown in some parts of the world today, but they're not sustainable to grow due to the risk of infection, and so the bananas more commonly produced en masse today are sadly of different varieties that lack the delicious flavor of the Gross Miguel. And that's it for the most recent release of GameMaker. Be sure to check the release notes for more information. Here's a couple of other things on screen I thought were somewhat noteworthy. Thank you to my patrons for funding what I do. Consider becoming one of them for source code access and other goodies. Subscribe, like, etc. and thanks for watching till the end. That really helps a lot. I'll catch you all next time.